Good evening. Welcome to the QCIS channel. We're on this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to talk about certification programs for technicians. Now, I live here in the state of Indiana, so individuals who work for INDOT, City of Indianapolis, South Bend, Tippecanoe County, you have inspectors, or you have RPRs, or you have project managers. You have individuals who are in charge of testing, like myself. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into the INDOT technician certification manual. Now, for the state of Indiana, if you're going to do inspections out there, of course, this was also a request from some of my subscribers who are working in the state of Indiana. Now, the manual has got quite a bit of information in it, and you can find the manual on the internet. Now, what I'm going to do, and this is for the HMA, this is the first one. And the reason why I'm doing HMA first, because most of the jobs that DOTs and cities do, let's be honest, many of them revolve around paving. And if you're driving, of course, here in Indiana, around some of the city streets, the highways, you see potholes, you see joints cracking. I mean, you see all kinds of failure due to the environment. Now, environments aren't just with the weather, they're with some of the substances that are put on the roads, like salt. So basically, what I'm going to get into is what do you need to become a technician? Now, let me put it bluntly, you're an inspector. Technicians are the ones that generally do the testing. And of course, here in Indiana, you're the inspector and the tester. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, if you're familiar with INDOT, and I used to work for INDOT a while back, 2016 to 2019, we had to use this manual. This is the certified technician program training manual for hot mix asphalt. Now, PennDOT, when I worked there, we called it super pave. There's warm mix, there's cold patch. But to be an inspector here in the state of Indiana, you must read this manual. Now, I don't have the workbook or anything, but if you read this manual and you get specifications, right now we have the 2024, you can use the 2020, the 2022. This right here, this manual is going to give you a breakdown. Now, I'm not going to read everything in this manual because you're going to have the manual for free. If you don't feel like going to get the manual off the internet, it's going to be under the video in my comment section. So, without further ado, let's get into this manual here. Now, when you're an inspector out there, no matter what, you're going to have to learn some mathematics. Now, I did construction math a month ago. You're going to see it again. Well, there are various shapes and conversions that you're going to have to use when you do calculations. Now, why do you do the calculations? Well, when it comes to transportation construction projects, they're all based on unit cost. Now, what goes into the unit cost? You're going to have you're going to have area, you're going to have something out there that's linear, and you're going to have volume. Now, since we live in the United States of America, we don't have to use kilometers, meters, centimeters. We're not doing metric here. We're doing English system. Now, right here, these are all the conversion factors that you're going to need. Now, I have a quiz for you. Now, you have 1 acre equals 4,840 square yards. Well, how do you convert that into square feet? Because 1 acre equals 43,560 square feet. Very easy. Well, you have 4,840 square yards. What you're going to do to convert the square yards into square feet is you're going to multiply. Right, you're going to multiply by 9. 9 square feet equal 1 square yard. And what's going to happen, you're going to have a fraction. So you're going to have 9 square yards over 1 square foot. And in the end, when you multiply 4,840 square yards times 9 square feet, you're going to come up with 43,560 square feet. Now, you're going to be using all of these shapes. Now, when I'm out there inspecting, this right here, this rectangle, square, trapezoid, and right triangle, they're my favorite. Very easy. You're going to have to use these shapes when you're out there getting quantities. Now, again, you're going to have linear feet or feet, square feet or square yards. Does that go with asphalt? Absolutely. So these are all the shapes you need. And these are areas of circular segments as well. But basically, when we get into hot mix asphalt, we talk about the terminology, the type of equipment used for hot mix asphalt, and how you sample it. Now, like I said, this manual, it goes into pretty much depth. Now, if you're going to become an inspector or INDOT or a consultant, you go through this manual, you read it, and there's a workbook. I will tell you, there are some people who don't understand the workbook. Now, if you don't understand the workbook or the problems, email me the problems. And what I will do is I will do the problems. I will scan them up and I will show you how I got the answers. Or I can go on Excel and do them for you as well. Here with Zoom, I got to learn how to use the whiteboard feature. But first of all, when we deal with asphalt, from this manual, you're going to have the terminology, HMA, hot mix asphalt, bituminous concrete. These are all names for asphalt. And basically, asphalt is a black cementing material that varies widely in consistency from solid to semi-solid at normal air temperatures. That's what it is. You're going to see this on the test if you are a technician, because you have to, and I'm going to get into all 6 exams and what you need. But number one, you must download this manual and you have to read it and get some specifications. It's the same thing that I had to do in college. And I believe the test might be open book as far as getting into the specifications. Also, learn how to read plans. Now, you're given a definition. You're also given the source and nature of asphalts, asphalt refineries or refining. This tells you how asphalt is made. Understand the process of where asphalt goes. It goes from the aggregate to the plant. And what they basically do with the aggregate, they add tar to it. Now, when they test the asphalt, this is why you have to have cores. They take the sample, put it in an oven that's about 1,000 degrees so they can burn all the tar off of it. And then they're going to run gradation. Gradation is when they shake it with sieves. And one thing you need to understand when it comes to asphalt, understand the process, understand why rollers have different rolling patterns. Understand that you have to have compaction. Now, here in Indiana, remember, we're not using the Trexler or the Troxler 4640 nuclear density gauge, but we're using something for your contractors. They're using an S, it's a non-nuclear, not an SDG, but it's a Trans-Tech non-nuclear density gauge. It's known as a 380. I think it's a PQI 380. Looks just like the 4640. The good thing about the non-nuclear density gauges is there are no film badges. And with nuclear density gauges, the problem with them is the standard counts had to be correct. And if they weren't, you had to send them back to Troxler. They calibrate them, and you waste a lot of time. But when it comes to asphalt, roller pattern, temperature, you must get the temperature when the concrete is coming out of the hopper. And when you're inspecting asphalt, make sure that the contractor closes the hopper. When you have the hopper open, what happens is the concrete starts to cool down. I called it concrete. It is bituminous concrete. Also, you have to collect the tickets. You have to add all the tickets up. You're going to have a quantity in tons. You must look at your plans. Now, in Indiana, one thing that I don't like, that I do like at PennDOT, Indiana uses, you have two types of item numbers. And I don't like this system at all. I think it's garbage. They have the CLN and PLN system. I tend to like the item. Now, what the item is the first 3 digits in the specifications. And then there's a description. But here in Indiana, since we're going to go with Indiana, read the plans and specifications, and then you have to add the tickets up. Make sure the tickets are right. Now, I'm just giving it to you right now because I did those jobs. I know what it's like. You got the sample. There's a frequency sample. There's a frequency. What is it? You got sublots, lots and sublots. You have 3 layers of pavement. You have base. I'm going to use the old school term here. Binder, they call it intermediate. And they also have surface. Generally, you're going to have 1.5, 4.5, and it could be 7.5. Just depends on the thickness of the mat. Now, you're going to have to come up with a yield. Some call it lay rate. Remember, to start off, it's 110 pounds per square yard per inch. 110 pounds per square yard per inch. Now, this is a quick way to get the lay rate. If I'm going to lay 2.5 inches of surface, what is my lay rate going to be? 2.5. Right around 275. Now, how did I get that? Well, I took my depth, which was 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and I multiplied it by that factor. 110 pounds per square yard per inch. Now, generally, when you're out there inspecting, certainly it's very important that you watch the contractor. They could be putting it down too thick or too thin. This manual is going to tell you everything, but you got to read it. Talks about, here we go, hot mix asphalt, just mentioned it to you. The paving courses, base course, intermediate course, surface course. Now, what's the surface course? The surface course is actually at the surface. That is what is laid and we ride on it. But you have the intermediate / binder and the base course to support it. And one thing, we're out there inspecting, you make sure the contractor puts tack. Tack is that black tar. You put tack, and if there are joints, got to put joints. Seal those joints. You also have dense graded. You have open graded. Now, basically, when we deal with open graded, it's got larger crushed aggregates with really a small amount of fines, and dense graded, small and fine aggregates. One thing you also need to understand, you need to understand the design mix formula. Now, generally, when you're out there inspecting, they're going to bring you a design mix, they're going to bring you a certification. This right here tells you the mixing process. What I'm doing again, you all are joining me, I'm going over this technician manual. You're going to need to study it because some of these questions, what's a batch plan? What are the different courses? They may be on that test. And in order to pass the test, you need a 70 to pass. Some people can't pass. And you need to understand the procedures. I'm giving them to you right now. Here are the components of a batch plant. You have the batch plant, and you have a drum plant. Everything is right here. Let's give you an overview. Understand the process, the batch plant operations. Also, I'm just scrolling down. It's going to tell you what drum plants are, batch plants, the components. I actually have a video that I did months ago about this. You're seeing it again, but you need to make yourself familiar with everything. Different mix composition types. Now, when you are doing asphalt, make sure the contractor has a quality control plan. And the asphalt, now, I want you to understand this. If they're putting down approaches, you look in your items or your CIB. This is very important because if it's QC, QA, you have to test it. If it's not QC, QA, you don't have to test it at all. And again, when you are testing, follow the frequency manual. This is all in the ITM, Indiana Test Methods. I know 580 or 583. That's sampling. Quality control plan. Everything is linked up to the specifications. You want to pass that test, this is what you have to do. Now, wire plate samples used again for the voids, effective binder, binder content. Right here, you're being told about air voids, core samples. Core samples are to determine your in-place density. And, one thing when you're doing asphalt, density is very, very important. The reason why density is very, very, very important, I want to see whether it's meeting the load requirements or the ESOL. The ESOL deals with wheels. There could be 0.3 to 3 million, 3 million to 10 million. Deals with axles. Now, in some states, it used to be this long piece of equipment. It was called a patholograph. What that patholograph measured, create a printout. It would measure smoothness. If you had bumps, you'd see bumps in the graph. Not many places use that piece of equipment anymore. They're using a van. It doesn't. IRI, that's wheel roughness. This tells you about cores, smoothness, different types. When we're dealing with surface, you're dealing with 9.5 millimeter, 370. Well, some places use 70, some places use 64. Generally, 64 is used on the shoulders, 70 is used on your main route. Now, what does 370 mean? Well, the 3 means that is your ESOL category for the mixture, and that's for the anticipated amount of traffic you're going to get. And the 70, that just reflects your binder grade, your PG. Now, of course, there's 3 others again. There's 64, 70, and 76. And they're basically used for places. I know 70 and 76 are used for places that are really, really, really warm, your southern regions. And you have your 12, your 19, your 37, your 25. Then you have your wrap, which is your recycled asphalt pavement. Now, what that is the contractor, when they mill off the existing asphalt, they save the millings, they take them back to the plant, and they recycle them. And that's asphalt. It's what we call asphalt. Wrap, recycled asphalt pavement. And then we also have RAS, recycled asphalt shingles. We're in the green. And when we mean the green, yeah, the green means money, but also the green means sustainability. And I'm just taking you through more information. This is what you have to have when you are utilizing or checking the design mix formula. I'd say you're basically checking the design mix formula. When it comes to quality control plan, your contractor should have a QC plan. Pay item description, that's right there as well. 402 HMA pay items have a 402 mix type. Yeah, types B, type C. Then you have SMA, which SMA is your stone matrix asphalt. Just it's a little bit more expensive, more stone. It's real good material. Now, what you need to understand too, as I move on, paving equipment. And you have your distributors. Now, when you're inspecting your asphalt, you want to make sure that the contractor's distributors are correct. When he puts tack down, you want to make sure that that tack is going to be brown when it's laid. When it breaks, it turns black, but you want to make sure that all of the nozzles are working. If they're not working, you're going to have to tell the contractor to stop tacking until they get the nozzles to work. You have to have the liquid asphalt at a uniform temperature, and it's got to be placed at a uniform rate and variable widths as well. That's the tack truck. And you got your pavers. Most of the contractors use what we call a blow Knox paver. That's what this one is. It's got your components, your tractor, your screed, your augers, your conveyors, which a screed looks like. Again, this information, want to do it for you all. It's going to be placed at the bottom, so you don't have to go get it. The bottom of my comment section. That's what these screed controls look like. Pavers come in different sizes. Then you have MTVs. Your MTV is your material transfer vehicle. Aggregates all of the material, keeps it mixed. Compaction equipment is basically your rollers. They're your rollers right there. Again, pay attention. You need to know this when you're out there inspecting. Some of this information may be on your test. There's two types of rolls that they use, static and vibratory. In MTVs, again, call them shuttle buggies. They use to transfer mix from the haul trucks to the paver, and is generally the preferred method to place mix. I just told you about the segregation. Haul trucks, generally your dump trucks. Generally, your dump trucks have roughly on an average 20 tons. You have some of the longer ones that have 23 to 25 tons. You have your hand tools, like your shovel. Preparation of surface. Now, how do they utilize the surface? Well, some utilize subgrade treatment, like a chemical. Proof rolling. That's when you're working down there on the base. Now, here in Indiana, if they're putting subgrade treatment down, you have to use a piece of equipment called an LWD, which is a lightweight deflectometer. And then, or you put anything down on that base, you have to see if it's pumping. And what I mean by pumping, is there water? If there is, mark out the areas where you add water. You have to cut that portion out. Let me see. Milling. Milling is when they take the old asphalt, put it in a dump truck hauls it off. The millings, again, are used to create what we call the RAP, the recycled asphalt pavement. What a milling machine looks like. This is some of your equipment. It's patching. Make sure they wedge it. And contractor, I know on the INDOT project, you can keep it open for 7 days. I tend not to let the contractor keep it open that long. Let's, there's signs out there that say rough road or uneven pavement. Surface cleaning, you got what we call your sweeper trucks, your tack coat. That's what it looks like. See how uniform it is? Now, this is what I don't like because the applicators on the tack truck weren't corrected. You have no uniformity. I would make them tack it again. Prime coat. All this, by the way, all these procedures are in the 400 section of the INDOT specifications. So even though you can pass a test, you must be familiar with the plans and specifications. Mixed placement and compaction. Again, must understand the temperatures, must understand what QA/QC is or non-QA/QC, air temperatures, surface temperatures. Because there's certain times that you cannot lay asphalt. Now, if it's after the construction season, you want to lay asphalt, INDOT must approve it. And I'm just, like I said, want to find some good information here. Like I said, this is going under the comment section. Transverse joint. Make sure the joints are sealed. Fog sealed. Now, what's a transverse joint? A transverse joint is a joint that goes across. Like if you have 24 feet of lane width, well, generally that transverse joint is going to be 24 feet in length. It's going across. Now, longitudinal means it's going north and south, or it could be going east to west, depending on the orientation of the road. Got safety edge, compaction, breakdown rolling, intermediate rolling. And like I said, this is all basic. You're going to need this if you want to pass your test. Now to read this information. And even if you pass the test, keep this information. Make yourself a checklist when you go out there as well. It talks about joint sealant, joint adhesive, tonnage, thickness control. Here's what I'm saying, 9.5, 12.5. I said 12, but it should have been 12.5, my correction. This is generally the surface, the binder or intermediate, and the base. Sometimes you have to have a MAF, which is a mixture adjustment formula. Here it is right here. Now that's very important for the pay quantity. Now, these will definitely be on the test. So this is how you come up with the lay rate. These are very important. Determining course thickness. This right here for your mixture adjustment factor, that's important. But this is definitely important. Doing it by hand. The contractor usually, you'll see him poking the rod, checking the depth. Also watch your stationing. Sometimes station sticks get knocked down. Make sure the contractor puts back their stationing. You need your stationing because you need to know when when to start and when to stop paving. Also, when you're paving, a 300-ton test strip is required. Your weigh tickets, don't get a lot of tickets. Shows you the quantities that they're bringing in, the weight. Here's something else you need. Determining a relationship per linear foot is right here. I mean, this is definitely important right here. Here are all the methods. All of the methods. And this is definitely on the test. Everything you see right here. But it should also have in here we go, something else you need to know, the sampling. Lots and sublots. It's very important. Again, for your base and intermediate here in Indiana, one lot is 5,000 tons. When you get to your surface, it's 3,000 tons. When it comes to sublots, your base and binder or intermediate, they're each 1,000 ton sublots, where your surface is 600-ton sublots. This is very important because this is where you're going to get your samples and your cores. Sample types. Now, I'm going to be a little biased here. I'm not in favor of all these pizza boxes here. That's what the pizza boxes look like, where you put all that sample in that pizza box. I prefer putting about maybe 10, maybe 15 pounds in a cylinder mold, carrying that off. But that's what the sample looks like. It's your plate sample. It's very important because as an inspector, you'll be out there while they're taking these plate samples. And of course, these core samples. They're going to give you density. Now, in case there's a failure, there are also appeal samples. And they're basically samples that are obtained when the contractor does not agree on the department's acceptance test results. So basically, when you're out there, the contractor is going to take some testing and the department is going to take some testing. Truck samples, you can also take them from the truck. Most people don't do it. They utilize the plate samples, but you can also sample from the truck. Then when you have acceptance samples, you have random numbers. You can't quite see it, but these are your random numbers right here. Plate samples. And in the future, I'll work out some mathematical from my head, from real projects, and I'll show you how to get the solutions they're looking for. Plans, specifications, and the understanding of how samples are taken. And you must take the temperature with a temperature gun. And right here, this is going to give you the information of where the samples are going to be taken. All right. Now, this is important too. Suppose you have a contractor that's laying 5 bituminous at 1,000 tons. And your random number is 0.52. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to get that 1,000 multiply it by 0.552, and you're going to get 552 tons, which, and I'm going to be biased because I like to take my samples right in the middle. 552 is pretty good. Now you're also going to have running totals. You can determine the weight of the truck, the theoretical paving area, the length of the road. That's also very important too, because the thicker the mat, the slower the speed of the truck. The thinner the mat, the faster everything goes. So that means when it comes to surface, trucks are going to travel at a shorter distance compared to when mats are put down thick. So they got to travel, well, they're going to put down even more. That's the thing. Might travel a little further, but it's going to be a little slower. And here's all the information right here. And this is how all the plate samples are set up. I mean, right here from this part, the sampling part, that and collecting your tickets, that's really the bread and butter. And just watching how the contractor is placing the asphalt, that's the, I mean, asphalt's pretty easy, but it's an arduous process and it can be confusing if you don't follow the procedures. And here's all the information right here. And this is what the plate samples look like. This is what the plates look like when they're set. This is how they pull. There's a cord on each of the plate. Pull that cord out. They dump the sample into that pizza box. The pizza box is weighed. Then you put the information on it, like your R number, your station number, your tonnage, your date. Is this A or this is B? I'm giving you some of the answers right now for your test. And this is all the information. You want to know what your lay rates are? They are right here. Right here. Everything that you need. Talks about core sampling again. Length of sublot. Thing you need. And here are the examples. Length of the sublot. And right here, this is a good chart to use. I don't see too many people using it. I've used it. It's very good. Because one thing you need to understand about asphalt, taking tickets, you need to track everything. You need to put it in your daily inspector's report. How many tons were laid that day? Some people forget to do it. I know when I was doing asphalt, no matter how late it was, those tickets were getting calculated, put in my daily inspector's report that night. So we can start tomorrow, start fresh. But again, I'm just giving you information overall. This is field assistant. And remember I told you about checklists? Get your checklist. And that concludes this presentation on HMA, hot mix asphalt. I utilize the manual. I will put the manual, the link to the manual under my comments section. But again, tell me what you think. Thank you for viewing this content right here on the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. And if you want to check out my main channel, the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show, I'm talking about scams right now, but I talk about other topics as well. And once I record all of my videos from the QCIS channel and the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show channel, those videos will be posted on my Twitter page. And since this channel, the QCIS channel, is an educational channel, this channel also gets posted on my LinkedIn page. And once again, thank you for listening to tonight's topic on the INDOT HMA certification exam, test manual, whatever you want to call it. You need this manual to help you pass the test. The information is right there. And it was brought to you from the QCIS channel. On this channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. Hope you all have a wonderful and gracious evening.